welcome back to Times Square today. What if the secrets of neuroscience could actually help you in your business or at work? Well, our next guest definitely thinks so. She is Carol Barks, an award-winning author, negotiation consultant, and conflict resolution expert who says neuroscience can help us improve our business performance, better your interpersonal communications, and yes, better deal with conflict. Welcome to Times Square today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So, all right, let's start off as a mediator. We've heard of that, but maybe we're not 100% sure what a mediator does when you show up.
Sure.
Fill us in.
So a mediator is really, it's the coolest job in the world. It's like a peacemaker.
Yeah.
Back in the Indian times, or, there was always the chief that you'd go to. That's kind of what a mediator is now. So we facilitate conversations between people who are having conflicts that need to be resolved. So sometimes people want to do this without litigation, and they just need somebody to help guide the conversation. So there's arbitrators who decide who's going to have what happen at the end. A mediator keeps the power with the people that they're serving, and they're just guiding them through a process so they can get beyond their conflict and back to living.
Pretty nice. So probably businesses, marriages, North Korea, maybe not North Korea.
No, they all do.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
They all do. It's amazing how many times mediation and conflict resolution can come into play, because people just get stuck in arguing, and they just need somebody to help them realize the things that they're not paying attention to. So it's really important when we're talking about businesses. The statistics say that about 25% of business managers' times are spent dealing with conflict. And so when you have a mediation person or a conflict resolution expert, they can help people not only get past the conflicts faster, but they can help people learn tools so that they don't have to have conflicts as much, so they can spend the time actually doing what makes the business money versus doing damage control on the things that waste time.
Wow. So I was reading up on your bio. You have a pretty interesting backstory that led up to this. Maybe you could fill in. I know we don't have the whole hour, but
I know.
But she has an amazing story. Fill in some highlights.
And none of it all has to do with conflict, and then none of it has to do with conflict. So
Yes.
it kind of is a fun story. But I started my career in school, college, out of high school, as a marine biology major. And right after I got out of college, I did what all marine biology majors do. I went into banking.
Okay.
And made a lot of sense, very boring, not at all my passion, but I did banking, I did software management, and I really didn't like that. But then I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area at that time, and we had the Loma Prieta earthquake strike, and my family lived in Nevada where I grew up, and I was all alone and feeling very helpless and needing a spot to connect. So I volunteered for the Salvation Army, and they put me down at the Cypress structure, which was the freeway part that collapsed. And I thought, wow, that was really intense and really meaningful. And that process led to a lot of other details, but I ended up changing careers again directly, just like marine biology to banking. I became a firefighter. So I became the first female firefighter.
The first, yes.
In a city called Redwood City, which is just south of San Francisco.
Right.
Loved that. But I got married, and then that transitioned me out of the area as my husband had taken a job in a different location. So then I made another obvious transition, this time from firefighting to creating a wholesale business.
Okay, sure, very obvious, right?
Yeah, and then ultimately I did a similar thing where I had a store that was a lifestyle store and wine bistro that was branded to go between Dean and DeLuca's and Williams-Sonoma Crate and Barrel and Pottery Barn.
Right.
But a divorce ended all of that.
Right.
And so mediation came as a result of how do I rebuild again.
The mediation piece.
And so I went to school, got a master's in conflict management and negotiation, which led
You said
into
I could do this
phase.
too. Why not?
Yeah.
I was the first female firefighter in this one area. It's the theme that I saw was there are a lot of times that you just said, well, why shouldn't I go do this? Why not me?
Right.
Right. So, okay, I want to get into the whole neuroscience piece of this because it's interesting to know how we tick, but you've now taken it and you help people and get to the result faster.
Yeah, during all of this last transitioning, that was kind of the demise of my life for a while. I wanted to rebuild, and as I've told you, I've rebuilt a lot of different times, but every time I wanted to rebuild right after all of that,
Yeah.
I got to a point and then I didn't want to because it got scary. It was like if you were at the bottom and lost everything, there's nothing else to lose, but if you rebuild, then there was a loss. And so consciously I wanted to do it, but unconsciously I really didn't want to.
Right.
So I found a team of neuroscientists who were working on teaching seminars on peak productivity and performance for your brain. And I went to that, and that was the missing piece, was really understanding how you leverage your brain. And so doing that in conflict really helps me help people move forward faster to resolutions. And so, like firefighting, which was my passion,
Yeah.
mediation is now because I'm still helping people in times of tremendous stress and anxiety for them, and businesses too, who are really grappling with trying to get the conflicts behind them so they can get back to business and do what it is that they're trying to do for success in their world.
So, right, with the neuroscience, it's just an extra layer for you to figure out this is why we're doing what we do.
Right.
Okay.
So you can use it in sales, you can use it in conflict, you can use it in communication. But if you understand why your brain is doing what it does, and you can understand why other people's brains are doing what they do, then it really takes the onus off of having to give judgment of that person's a jerk. And it's like, well, no, they're not really a jerk. That's just what brains do under these types of circumstances. So it's very liberating and it's very empowering because you become more watchful instead of being locked into what your brain normally does unconsciously.
So, when it comes to being a negotiation consultant, a mediator, is this what makes you different? Do you have a.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. There's a few things that make powerful mediators and conflict resolution experts. And one is that they have a lot of diversity of background, and clearly I have that. So I can talk to so many people about so many different things and find something that I can say, oh, me too, I did that. You know?
Right.
And then at the same time, I'm a fast thinker. So from being a firefighter, I didn't have time to really go, how do we want to fight that fire? It had to be in.
Right.
And so that helps really well. And then with the brain process, I can see both non-verbally and I can see by physiological cues and what people say when they're getting triggered. So I can tell what to guide that conversation.
All right, so on the show, we're always looking for the wow. So, when it comes to neuroscience, tell us something that would surprise us. It'll be a first for the show on neuroscience.
Oh, there's so many things
Okay.
I could tell you. One of them is, can you think of the word that would trigger the most stress in our brain?
Just every word, every morning, work. How about work?
No, no, no,
Money
no,
for people? What is it?
no.
Oh,
The
that
word
is
no,
true.
it really triggers more
Oh.
stress in people's brains. So when we're dealing with conflict, if you can say something besides no,
And you gave me no.
that
on
one
that-
I
on that
did.
one. I was
Or you
getting
go,
stressed over
now
it.
what do I do?
Right.
But the other thing that's really important for people to remember is that our brains are just negatively oriented. And that was because the things that were negative in our ancestral times were the things that could be death for us. So we tend to really pay attention to the negative things. And when we don't have all the dots connected, we automatically go negative. So an example would be, have you ever been called into your boss's office where they go, hey, Jess, can I see you in my office? And you immediately go, oh crap, what did I do?
Right.
You
What
don't
went
go,
wrong?
yeah, I must be getting a raise.
That's
you
where
know?
our brains go. What's
Yes.
wrong?
So in conflict or in organizational change, when people don't have all the dots connected, they go negative. So it's so important we communicate, and there's ways to balance that. So if there's one negative thing that you say, 3 positive things need to be said to neutralize
to
that.
neutralize.
And 5 need to be said if you want to start building a more positive relationship. So there's ways to do all of that and build out.
So, doing what you do, you must see a lot of common themes, a lot of common conflicts. What do you see a lot of?
Oh my gosh, tons of conflict.
Especially at work.
Yes, everywhere, a lot of the conflicts tend to be about the principle of the matter. You know, people get really locked into their values and what they're after, but really a lot of it's about miscommunications. And we get really locked into arguing our point. I want a raise, no, you can't have a raise. I want a day off, no, you can't have a day off. And those are called positions. But really what we need to talk about are what the needs are. So when we can come up with why somebody wants that promotion or that time off, then sometimes we can find ways to talk about things to actually get everybody's needs met in creative ways. And that's the biggest thing. I had this couple one time who were getting divorced, and mom was a stay-at-home mom and dad was a business owner and was very invested in the stocks of his company, and they were fighting about their child custody part of it. And at the end of getting all that done, I said, do you have any other questions? And mom looked at dad and dad looked at mom, and they said, well, we do have one more thing. And mom, mind you, was kind of volatile. She was really emotional, and dad was really conflict adverse. And it ended up that they wanted to negotiate what the stock option division was going to be and who would do the tax liabilities. And they were screaming at each other. And we were able to stop and say, wait a minute, I think this is really about security, not so much about the money. But mom's little pot, whatever she gets, is going to get smaller. And dad's pot is going to get bigger because he still has the same job. And she had a degree that was 15 years old.
Right.
And she was worried and scared. And she still had to be a stay-at-home mom who now was going to have more responsibilities and have to recreate. And once I explained that to dad, dad just said, I'll take the tax hit. I get it. I never stopped to think about that. So
Wow.
it was really in talking about the needs. And if we can do that, it usually gets solved so much faster.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know we got about a minute left. Some of the biggest mistakes that you think people make, we make as humans?
We don't listen very well
No?
at all. Usually, people listen just to wait for you to stop talking so I can go on and telling you all the stuff that I want. And oftentimes we talk too fast. Our brains can only handle small chunks of information before it just goes away. So if we really want to be heard, we want to say less words, and we want to talk softer, and we want to talk slower so that the brain can actually track. And that is really counterintuitive what people do when they get upset.
Quick advice that you can give to organizations and individuals to improve their skills?
Yeah, there's a lot of great things to do. Coaching, having speakers such as myself come into their organization. They can go to my website and get a lot of fun facts and tips that they can immediately apply. They can download the excerpts from my book on there,
okay.
and then they can
we'll put a
always
link
call
up.
me. Yes.
That's fantastic. Thank you for coming in, sharing with us. Carol Barks, thank you for being here in Times Square
Thanks
today.
so much for having me, Jess.
We will be right back.